Morning. Happy Monday. We are on chapter 9 in Failing Forward. All right. This is one of my favorite things. Honestly, I think I say that about every chapter, but it says, get over yourself. Everyone else has. I don't even know what this chapter, I'm guessing I know what this chapter is going to say because I feel like, I don't know if it comes from, excuse me, just being a child and thinking that everything's about you. And then growing into adulthood and realizing like everyone is just thinking about themselves. And like sometimes we obsess over, we think other people watch us. You know what I mean? Like, for example, shaving legs. Do a lot of people shave their legs because they think other people will see their hairy legs or because they just like how their legs feel? You know what I mean? Like there's a motivation thing going on. I know I used to shave my legs all the time because I was like, oh my gosh, someone's gonna see my hairy legs. And then I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Oh, hi, bug. Um, no one can even see my hairy legs, so sometimes I'm not gonna shave, and like, it's not a big deal. Like, I still shave my legs, but just not nearly as like obsessively. That's my point. Here's the camera. Do you wanna go eat breakfast with Aiden? I'm just barely starting, so it's gonna be a while.
And just barely. I just
Good morning, Jody. I love you. So you're gonna hang out and listen? Okay. Don't get stuck inside your own ego because it will become a prison in no time flat. I'm recording, so now you need to be very quiet, okay? Okay. People who desire to fail forward must turn their attention away from themselves and toward helping others. You could call that process getting over yourself. A few years ago, I saw a wonderful movie called Mr. Holland's Opus that beautifully illustrated the whole process. Ooh, that movie's on. Have you seen that, bug? On Disney Plus? I want to watch it. The movie was written by screenwriter Patrick Shane Duncan, who came up with the idea one day while stuck in a traffic jam. He heard a news report on the radio about the cutback in school programs and the number of teachers in the state of California. Suddenly, I realized how important my own teachers had been in my life, says Duncan, and that the most important thing we can do as adults is educate our children. Duncan remembered the one special teacher who made a difference in his life. She was reputed to be the meanest and toughest teacher at my junior high, he recalls, but she was the one who bought me my books and gave me her own son's clothing after he'd grown out of them. Mr. Holland's Opus is a tribute to her and everyone else in her grand profession. One Man's Journey. The movie is the story of Glenn Holland, played by Richard Dreyfuss, a young musician who desires to make it to the big time as a composer. But when money gets tight and he needs to take care of his family, he reluctantly seeks employment as a teacher. That job, which he takes only on a temporary basis, becomes his life. Through the course of the movie, he discovers that he wants to share his love for music with his students, and in the process, he discovers himself. The pivotal point of the movie comes when Mr. Holland's teaching position is eliminated because of cutbacks, and he suddenly realizes he has reached middle age. In that moment, he knows that he has forever missed his chance to pull up roots, go to New York, and take his symphony with him, which he has been writing in his spare moments for the last 20 years. Despondent and feeling rejected, he believes he has wasted his life. He is depressed and on the verge of bitterness as he leaves his classroom. He ambles dejectedly down the hall, preparing to walk out of the school for the last time. That's when he hears something in the auditorium. When he checks to see what it is, he discovers dozens and dozens of students whose I just get choked up just even talking about it. That movie always makes me cry. Whose lives he changed during all his years of teaching. That group even includes the governor of the state, whose life took a major turn for the better under his mentoring. An ordinary man doing something extraordinary. The director of the movie, Stephen Herrick, was attracted to Mr. Holland's opus because the screenplay touched him. It made me cry, he admitted. Very rarely do I read something where I actually end up with tears flowing freely. That's how I felt at the end of the script. Story makes a hero out of an everyman who happens to be a teacher, which I think is an important thing to do. It's also a story about how one human being can affect a lot of other people and touch their lives in a very special way. Many people believe that touching the lives of others can be done only by some elite group of specially gifted people, but that's not the case. Any ordinary person, just like Glenn Holland in the movie, can make a positive impact on the lives of others. Some unsuccessful people tell themselves that as soon as they achieve considerable success or discover some unseen talent, they will turn their attention to making a difference in the lives of others. But I have news for them. Many people who struggle with chronic failure do so because they think of no one but themselves. They worry about what other people think of them. They scramble to make sure no one gets the better of them. They continually focus on protecting their turf. Years ago, I read an article about New York Yankees manager Billy Martin that described him as a person who acted that way. The author said that in his later years, the former ball player spent much of his energy second guessing supposed enemies and foiling imaginary plots against him. I don't know to what extent that is true, but I do know this. Martin was hired and fired from his position as Yankees manager 5 times. My dad loves to tell jokes, and the cornier they are, the better. Oh, the better he likes them. I recall going to an NFL ball game with him in San Diego, and as the Chargers huddled up, he leaned over to me and said, "John, did you hear about the guy who quit going to football games? Every time the team huddled up, he thought they were talking about him." If you continually focus all your energy and attention on yourself, I have a message for you. Get over yourself. Everyone else has. If you have a history of repeated failure and you dedicate most of your time and energy to looking out for number one, you may need to learn a new way of thinking, where others come first. If you suspect that a selfish streak is preventing you from achieving your goals and dreams, you may need to change and improve your approach to success. Stop focusing on yourself. First, you need to think about others rather than yourself. A major cause of negative thinking and poor mental health is self absorption. Selfishness ultimately hurts not only the people around a self focused person, but also the selfish person himself. It inclines the person toward failure because it keeps him in a negative and mental rut. Got another buddy. Hi, Aiden. I'm recording, so you gotta be real quiet, okay?
Can I do something?
Really quick.
I'm full.
Okay. Give me a hug. All right. Thank you.
What
How
do
you
I
doing,
do
bud?
now?
Are you enjoying listening to the book? You can
Like
just,
more.
yeah, I'm gonna read. So you can sit and listen really quietly, or you can go somewhere else and snuggle daddy or be on the couch.
That's asleep again.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna read, okay?
Okay.
Gotta be really quiet. All right. That is the reason that Dr. Carl Meninger responded the way he did when someone asked, "What would you advise a person to do if he felt a nervous breakdown coming on?" Most people expected him to reply, "Consult a psychiatrist," since that was his profession. To their astonishment, Meninger replied, "Lock up your house, go across the railway tracks, find someone in need, and do something to help that person." So true. When you serve, just forget about yourself. So smart. My friend Kevin Myers points out that most people are too insecure to give anything away. I believe that's true. Most people who focus all their attention on themselves feel that they're missing something in their lives, so they're trying to get it back. For example, here are some needs and the common side effects that occur when they're missing. Inner need. If missing, I feel, that's how it goes. The inner need is belonging, and if it's missing, I feel insecure. Worth, inferior. Competence, inadequate. Purpose, insignificant. Developing a giving spirit, as Meninger implied, helps a person to overcome some feelings of deficiency in a positive and healthy way. That's why Meninger believed that generous people are rarely mentally ill people. A person is less likely to focus on himself if he is trying to help someone else. Ooh, that's pretty, I need to I'm going to circle that.
Circle what?
Generous people are rarely mentally ill people because they're less likely to focus on themselves. Interesting, huh? All right. Stop taking yourself too seriously. In my seminars, I work with a lot of leaders, and I've found that many of them take themselves much too seriously. Of course, they're not alone. I meet people in every walk of life who have too much doom and gloom in their attitudes. They need to lighten up. No matter how serious your work is, that's no reason to take yourself seriously. A few weeks ago, I was in Australia teaching leadership to a group of several thousand business people, and I was talking to them about how most of us think they are more important than we really are. I told everyone that on the day I die, one of my good pastor friends will give me a wonderful eulogy and tell funny stories about me. But 20 minutes later, the most important thing he'll have on his mind will be trying to find the potato salad at my reception. You need to have a sense of humor about these things, especially if you work with people. Comedian Victor Borge summed it up. Laughter is the shortest distance between two people. If any person had a reason to take his job and himself seriously, it is the President of the United States. Yet it's possible for even people holding that position to maintain their sense of humor and keep their egos in check. For example, when Calvin Coolidge was asked if he would attend the Sesquicentennial Exposition in Philadelphia, the president answered yes. Why are you going, Mr. President? A reporter asked. As an exhibit, answered Coolidge. Most recently, when George Bush was told that a company would be selling a set of presidential trading cards for kids, his response was, I don't dare ask how many hundreds of George Bush cards you have to trade to get one Michael Jordan. If you tend to take if you tend to take yourself too seriously, give yourself and everyone else around you a break. Recognize that laughter breeds resilience. Start putting the team first. If you follow sports these days, you've heard a lot of talk about the selfishness of professional athletes. The recent criticism has been especially harsh toward pro basketball players because the feeling is that too many players possess a me first mentality. Critics often point to the difference in performance between the men's and the women's basketball teams in the 1996 Olympics. The amount of talent on the men's team far outweighed that of their opponents. Yet the players sometimes found it difficult to play together as a team. Meanwhile, the women virtually defined teamwork with their performance. When competition is fierce, selfishness makes it almost impossible for a team to win. It ultimately produces failure. If talent alone won championships, then the Los Angeles Lakers of the late 1900s would have earned one. Fortunately, all the stories of the NBA aren't about selfishness and failure. The 1999 NBA champions, the San Antonio Spurs, won their victory because the man who had been their best player for a decade knew the importance of getting over himself. You guys won't believe the like dedication San Antonio has to the Spurs. It's crazy. Like all the restaurants like give free food on Spurs nights, and like people like traffic stops when there's a game going on. It's crazy. Standing at 7 feet 1 inch, David Robinson is the center for the Spurs, and I'm sure this has changed since then. In his 10 years in the NBA, Robinson has earned just about every type of award there is for a professional basketball player. Rookie of the Year in 1990, Rebounding Champion 1991, Defensive Player of the Year 92, Number 1 Shot Blocker 92, Number 1 Scorer 94, and Most Valuable Player 95. He has also been named to the NBA All-Star Team 8 times. His consistently excellent play has put him in the upper echelon statistically in several all-time NBA categories, including points scored per game. He has been named one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. Despite all of Robinson's personal achievements, he had never won an NBA championship until the 1999 season. How did he do it? By giving up the ball offensively and allowing another player, Tim Duncan, to be the hero. During the 1999 playoffs, teammate Avery Johnson commented, What we have in David Robinson is the ultimate team player, the ultimate winner. He threw his ego out and became a totally different player for the good of the team. He could still average 25 points, but would we be where we are? No. In 1999, Robinson put up the lowest averages of his career. His viewpoint was this: I looked at our team and realized we needed me to be more defensive and rebounding minded. To be a complete team, both of us didn't need to score. Some nights I might, but it's Tim's team, and I'm fine with that. The result of Robinson's unselfish ability to put the team ahead of himself, was success for everyone on the team. If you want to win and overcome failure, you've got to get over yourself. Start adding value to others continually. When people think about you, do they say to themselves, my life is better because of that person, or my life is worse? Their response probably answers the question of whether you are adding value to them. Since we moved to Atlanta a few years ago, we've made some new friends named Howard and Doris Bowen. Not long ago, my wife Margaret and I attended a birthday party for Doris. A lot of people attended that party because of the positive impact she's had on their lives. As we sat listening, person after person stood up to talk about the difference she had made in his or her life. Doris is an extra mile person. After I had a heart attack in December of 98, there came a time when I had to go into the hospital all day for tests. Doris dropped everything to spend that nerve wracking day with Margaret, even though we'd only just met her. Doris is always doing that kind of thing for others. She's a wonderful friend. After all the people at the party told Doris how much she meant to them, she stood up and said, all my life, I've wanted people to feel like they were better for knowing me. Thank you for making me feel like I've made a difference. To succeed personally, you must try to help others. That's why my friend Zig Ziglar says, you can get everything in life you want if you help enough people get what they want. How do you do that? How can you turn your focus from yourself and start adding value to others? You can do it by, number one, putting others first in your thinking. When you meet people, is your first thought about what they'll think of you or how you can make them feel more comfortable? At work, do you try to make your coworkers or employees look good, or are you more concerned about making sure that you receive your share of the credit? When you interact with family members, whose best interests do you have in mind? Your answers show where your heart is. To add value to others, you need to start putting others ahead of yourself in your mind and heart. If you can do it there, you will be able to put them first in your actions. Number two, finding out what others need. I love that because like we know that thoughts really is what control everything. So if you're thinking about them, then that's going to lead to an emotion, thinking positively, and then the emotion will give you so the CTFAR, right? Your action will then be towards them, and the result is that they'll feel loved, and you'll be serving, and you will be thinking of yourself less. All right, number two, finding out what others need. How can anyone add value to others if he doesn't know what they care about? Listen to people, ask them what matters to them, and observe them. If you can discover how people spend their time and money, you'll know what they value. And when you know people's values, you can add value to them. This is exactly how we find out if people need plexus. Like, we need to be thinking about them, we need to be talking to them, asking them questions, what's going on in their lives, all of that. Number three, meeting that need with excellence and generosity. And the thing is, if we only think about plexus, like, they're going to know. So we don't just help them with plexus, we help them in other ways. We serve them, and we are interested in whatever they are talking about and whatever they need. Being good listeners is so important. All right. The final step requires concrete action. Once you know what matters to people, do your best to meet their needs with excellence and generosity. Offer your best with no thought toward what you might receive in return. President Calvin Coolidge believed that no enterprise can exist for itself alone. It ministers to some great need. It performs some great service, not for itself, but for others. Or failing therein, it ceases to be profitable and ceases to exist. Behind every great man. When I think of some of the notable figures in history who were able to minister to people's needs and perform great service, one of the first who comes to mind is John Wesley, the 18th century Briton who founded the Methodist movement. He was a leader who served God unselfishly his entire life. But I consider someone else in his family to have been more selfless than he was, and in fact to have made his achievements possible through her service. That person was John's mother, Susannah Wesley. Born the 24th child of a well to do family in London in 1669, the highly intelligent Susanna was the pet of her father, clergyman Samuel Annesley. Though daughters were not usually given formal education in England at that time, Susanna received excellent instruction from her father and was also allowed to be in his study when the many famous men of the time congregated there to debate current issues and philosophy. As a result, she was well informed and her intellect was razor sharp. At age 19, she married Samuel Wesley, a young clergyman who came to be regarded as one of the finest scholars of his day. They set up household and began their life together. Before long, Susanna bore their first child, and then many more followed. Unfortunately, their hopes were greater than their prospects, and they spent their nearly 50 years of marriage barely scraping by financially. Influencing the influencers. In those days, middle class women didn't work outside the home, but Susanna had a more than full time job nonetheless. She dedicated herself selflessly to caring for her family. She ran the household, managed the finances, her husband was a poor money manager, and oversaw their modest farming efforts. Even when Samuel landed in debtor's prison at Lincoln Castle for 3 months, she persevered. And she did that while continuing to have numerous children, which was not unusual in those days. Over the course of 21 years, she gave birth to 19 children. 10 of them survived. Yeah, that's a lot of kids, huh? Despite all the work that Susanna Wesley performed for her family, her most important task was to educate her children. For 6 hours every day, she dedicated herself to the moral and intellectual instruction of her 3 sons and 7 daughters. She made it the object of her life. When she was in her 60s, her son John asked her to share her methods by writing them down. Her reply: "The writing anything about my way of education I am much averse to. It cannot, I think, be of service to anyone to know how I, who have lived such a retired life for so many years, used to employ my time and care in bringing up my children. No one can, without renouncing the world in the most literal sense, observe my method, and there are few, if any, that would entirely devote above 20 years of the prime of life in hopes to save the souls of their children, which they think may be saved without so much ado, for that was my principal intention." Wow, she was amazing. She had performed an incredibly selfless act, and in the process, she had given up a lot, as she said, 20 years of her prime. But the results found in her children speak for themselves. Charles was an influential clergyman and has been called one of the greatest hymn writers of all time. And John is considered by many to have shaped England more than any other person of his generation. His impact on Protestant Christianity is still quite remarkable. Oh, sorry. You may not be able to give your family the time that Susanna Wesley gave to hers, but what matters is that you give all you can, to the people who are important to you, and you can do that only if you learn to get over yourself. Be more concerned with what you can give rather than what you can get, because giving truly is the highest level of living. Your ninth step to failing forward: get over yourself and start giving yourself. If a selfish streak has been keeping you from getting over yourself, examine your attitude, determined to make meeting the needs of others a priority in your life. You can start by asking yourself the following questions daily, either at the beginning or at the end of each day. Whom am I pouring my life into? Whom am I helping who cannot help me in return? Whom am I lifting who can't help himself? Whom am I encouraging daily? If you will act with the interests of others in mind every day, you will soon be able to give concrete, affirming answers to these questions. And then here's the steps. 1, realize that there's a major difference between average people and achieving people, which is they fail a lot. Number 2, learn a new definition of failure. Number 3, remove the you from failure. Number 4, take action and reduce your fear. Number 5, change your response to failure by accepting responsibility. Number 6, don't let the failure from outside get inside you. Number 7, say goodbye to yesterday. Number 8, change yourself and your world changes. And number 9, get over yourself and start giving yourself. Love it. And tomorrow it says embracing failure as a friend. So number 10 is grasp the positive benefits of negative experiences. Sounds good. Thanks guys for listening.